Go paperless in the field with Sage eScan technology. Paper clutter isn't just an issue in the office. Dealing with paper tickets, invoices, and receiving tickets can bog down on-site personnel too. Sage Paperless Construction streamlines operations by enabling electronic scanning and submission of documents that virtually eliminate the need for paper in the field. What's more, paired with mobile technology reporting, Sage makes it possible to instantly access invoices and other documents right from the job site, so issues can be addressed quickly and efficiently.
So what you see here is the main desktop for Sage Paperless Construction. This is so you can handle all the document routing and approval for your accounting system. So this includes AP invoices, change orders, subcontracts, insurance certificates, basically any document that you want to have electronic instead of just keeping that paper document filed somewhere in a file cabinet. So the first example I want to show you is if I were to just bring in a single invoice via an email. So when I grab this, you'll notice that the PDF, I'm holding the left button down on my mouse with the document, my screen changes and I have the ability to do multiple things with this file that I'm dragging over. I can either open it up, I can create a batch and stick it in there. I can index the file, and I'll get to indexing later when we go through the other types of documents. I can route this file around, so I can send it around internally. I can push it to a queue. A queue is someone's virtual inbox. I can split the file up, and I'll show you that when I have a file that has multiple documents in one file. I can insert this into an existing file within the software, or I can open it up in the window so I can view it. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this invoice and I'm going to push it to a queue. And the queue that I want to push this to is my standard, my public AP queue. So it's showing me an image of that document that I pulled over, and I'm going to put it into that queue. So that is what I did there. Okay, so now as I'm signed in as Rose, and she is my AP processor. So I'm going to come in here into AP Flow, and I have access to a couple different items. Invoice Entry, I can look at what's going on with the invoices, and I can import credit card statements into the system. Those are the three functions that I can do as an AP processor. There are various levels of security, so you decide who has access to what and what they can do on different types of documents. So I'm going to enter in some invoices, and you'll notice that I have a whole bunch of invoices here in my queue. So now I can just look at all these documents individually and start entering these documents into the software. So we'll start here with this first one here. And I'm going to click this new invoice entry screen. And what that's going to do is that's going to pop up my invoice entry grid. And this will look exactly like the AP invoice entry screen inside Sage 300. As well. And I can change and modify it. So if there's certain fields that you don't use on a regular basis, then we can prevent those from being displayed so you don't have to look at them or tab through to the next item. Okay, so here's my document on my left-hand side. And I can do a lot of different things with this document. I can change the orientation of this document, how I want to view this document. I can rotate it left and right. If I wanted to, I could print it, or I could even email it. I also have things that are called annotations as well. So I could come in here. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. Well, maybe not that big. Okay, I can come in here and I can do things like highlight certain information. So maybe I want to highlight the amount here of this invoice, or I can add stamps. These are some pre-designed stamps for you. You can even create your own custom stamps if you'd like. So maybe this is approved. You can write virtual sticky notes as well. So I can type in a message. And just change this to 40. Okay. So there's a lot of different things I can do, you know, arrows, whatever you might want to highlight on a specific invoice. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this in here. Now this is linked with your accounting software. So all your vendors, they're in the system. You don't have to do anything differently. There's no syncing that needs to be done. All of this is automatic. So, you know, there's not like any back and forth that needs to be done. It's always consistently looking at your accounting data to make sure it has all the vendors, all the jobs, all your subcontracts, all your purchase orders, etc. Okay. So I am going to come here. Whoops, wrong job. This is for Main Street Post Office, this one. Okay, oops, no, Main Street Post Office, this one. Okay. And then put the basic information here. And my invoice total is $26,750. Okay, so now once I've put the basic header information, if I don't know where this needs to be coded to, I can stop the process here and route this around based on my routing rules. So what I mean by that, I have the basic information of it's this vendor, it's this invoice amount, it's or invoice number, this invoice amount, and it goes to this job. That's as much as I know as the AP entry person. Because I have routing rules already set up in the software that says, hey, when an invoice goes to this job, it needs to get routed to John for approval. I could just stop here if I don't know where this needs to get coded. And then it'll send it to John, and then John can make the necessary coding as far as what cost code it goes to or what subcontract agreement it goes to, things of that nature, okay? Otherwise, you can continue the process and put in, again, as much information as you have at the moment. So I know that this belongs to a subcontract that I already have inside the system. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this subcontract option. And it's going to show me all the different subcontracts that are available for this specific vendor that I have on here. So actually right now, I don't have a subcontract for this particular job, the Main Street Post Office. So I'm not sure where this goes. So I can either stop here and then again, just send this off, go ahead and route it, or I can say, well, I know it belongs to this job, so I'm going to code it to that job, and it's going to default to the cost code that is set up on the vendor and pull in the GL account type, okay? So even if this isn't the right information necessarily, the approver can make adjustments if necessary, okay? Now, you have the option to expense things via a job, via just an expense account, via a purchase order, or a subcontract agreement, okay? So those are the 4 different ways that you can expense out a specific invoice. You can also have multiple lines as well. So I'm showing the total going to 1 line right now, but I could split this up between 5 different lines, and maybe it's going to 5 different jobs and 5 different cost codes, and I can do whatever I want. Maybe part of them are going to jobs and part of it is going to just expense accounts. I'm really not limited to how I can expense out this particular invoice. Okay. Also over on the right here too, maybe this is an invoice that I know needs to get paid right away, and I want to be notified as soon as the invoice has been approved. I can click some of these alerts and I can tell the software how I want it to alert me. So maybe just put an alert on my dashboard, send me an email, text me, or, you know, always do a recurring alert for all types of invoices. Same thing if it's rejected or once it's been exported. All of these I have an option on whether I want to receive these alerts. Okay, so this can be done on an invoice by invoice basis or on everything. It's really up to you. Okay, you also have something that's called the vendor history. The vendor history will tell you what has already been put into the in your accounting software for this vendor. So if you feel like maybe you're not getting that warning that this is a duplicate invoice, but this looks like it might be a duplicate invoice, you can look at the vendor history and see all the other invoices that you have for this particular vendor. And if they are already in paperless, you would be able to view those documents and verify whether or not it is a duplicate. Okay, and then one last thing, you have something called document match. What document match does is it finds related documents to this invoice. So if I were to put this to a subcontract agreement and I scanned in the subcontract agreement into paperless, it would find that related document and show me that contract document as well, or any change orders or any other things that might be related, potentially related to this. Or it could be something like, because it's the vendor, I pick the vendor, if I have their insurance certificate scanned, then that could show as a related document as well. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and route this document. Oops. Let's just do this. Okay, so I'm going to route this document. And you'll notice right away it pops up this screen. Now this screen is showing me that first it's going to go to Jose for approval. Then once Jose has approved it, Olivia will approve it. And after Olivia approves it, then John Smith needs to approve this invoice. Okay? And this is based on the routing rules that I set up. So you can have multiple rules apply to a specific invoice or a group of invoices. And that's something that gets set up when we initially do it. And you can change and modify these rules. Okay, yes, you're welcome. So now I am signed in as Jose, and he is one of our approvers. And you can see that Jose's home screen looks a little bit different from Rose's, but I can see that he has 2 items pending review. So if I click on this, I, as Jose, would be able to see which documents need my approval. So I have some of the same similar icons as Rose did, but there's a couple ones that are different, and they have to do with approving the invoice. So I can either approve it, I can reject it, I can place it on hold, or I can route the invoice to someone else. Now this can be enabled or disabled depending on what you want to do for security purposes. But in this example, we have it enabled so that just in case an invoice gets routed to someone in error and it doesn't belong to them, they can route it to the appropriate person without having to reject it, the invoice, okay? And then I have some of the other icons that Rose had, so I could print the document if I wanted to, I could email it internally or externally. I still have vendor history, and I still have that document match as well, okay? All right, so I can look at the invoice here on the left-hand side, and then I can see where this has been coded. Now, if I needed to change this for whatever reason, I can come here and I can click this Edit Invoice button. That's going to allow this to pop open and become editable by me. So now if I want to change this and say, well, this isn't rough carpentry, it doesn't belong here, then I can make the necessary change that I need to this invoice. Okay. Also on here, since we're talking about subcontracts, I can see a couple of items here. So there's these pieces of paper with blue check marks. I know the icons are kind of small, but basically what this shows me is how much the commitment is for, and then how much job to date cost I have against that commitment, and if there's any variances. So in this example, I have a lot more coded to this than the actual commitment amount. Now, you have the ability to have a soft or a hard warning. So a soft warning would be, hey, you're going over your commitment. A hard warning would say, hey, this invoice is going to put you over the commitment amount, so you need to put in a change order or adjust the amount of the commitment to proceed with this. Also on here, I can look at the budgeted amount too. So not only just the subcontract, but also the budget for this cost code and cost type too. So again, you can see that I'm going to go over budget on the cost code as well for this particular invoice. Okay, so again, same thing as the commitment, I also can have a hard or soft warning with that as well. Okay. So if I'm Jose, this looks good. Yeah, I know this is going to put me over budget, but I know that we have a change order that I haven't entered into the system for whatever reason yet, and then that will be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and approve this invoice. So you'll notice here are these two warnings that came up, letting me know I'm going over the commitment and letting me know I'm going over budget. And I have to choose to waive that, and then it makes note that I did waive that. Okay, so then there's no question of why did you approve this? It's over budget. It shows that the system warned you and you were aware of it and you choose to proceed anyways. Okay. All right, and now I can go to my next invoice and continue the approval process as well. All right, okay. So I'm going to log on as Rose again, and I'm going to show you how the system handles other documents that are not AP related. Okay, so Rose here has some subcontracts that she has created, and she wants to send them over to the PM to be able to review before they actually get sent out to the subcontractor. So what I'm going to do is I can kind of handle this a couple different ways. I can either route this file directly over to the PM, or I can index it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to index it, because if I need to make changes, I want to see all those different types of changes reflected inside of the document itself. So what happens is this window pops up here. So here is my subcontract document. And the first thing it's asking me is, what type of document is this? So I need to tell the software what it is. So in this example, it is a subcontract document. Notice when I put in the subcontract document number, so let me just pick a different one real quick. So let's just say it is, let's say it's this one. Okay, when I pick the subcontract number, you'll notice that it pulls all the information that was entered into my accounting software. So the date of the subcontract, who the vendor was, the job that it was assigned to, and other various information that it knows from accounting. Okay. Now I can add additional information if I want to, like perhaps the cost code information or other things. Basically, what you see here, these are all the different ways that I can search for this document in the future. Okay, so if I'm looking for this, I can either search for it by the job name, the number, who the vendor is, the document date, the subcontract number, and others. You get to decide what types of fields you want available for searching functionality and which ones are required to be filled out or not. Okay. All right. Also in here, I can route this around after I've indexed it. And indexing is essentially adding these little flags or these little tags to the document so we can now search for the document within the software. But I want to route this around for approval. So I'm going to go ahead and route this after I put these little flags on the document. Okay, and what that does is that brings this screen up here. So now I can put in a subject because this is going to send like a little email, and I can put some notes in it if I want to. And I can send this to recipients internally and externally. You'll notice here too, there is an integration with DocuSign. So if, for example, I wanted to send this document to my subcontractor for them to then sign through DocuSign, I could do that directly from the software, okay? So in this example, though, I want to just send it to the PM for approval first because I want to make sure I've entered everything correctly before we actually send it to the sub. So you notice I have two items check marked. I want the document to be returned to me when it's been approved, and I want to send it out for approval. So I'm going to go ahead and route this around. Oh, I got to put a recipient here. And I'm going to put it to John Smith, who is our PM on this particular project. And I want him to review it, and I want him to approve it. So now I'm going to route that document. And now, as Rose, I am done with my part. So again, I'm going to log in now as John, who is our project manager. And now we can see the information that he sees when he gets this document in his inbox. Okay, so you'll notice he has one item in his inbox. So what I will do is I will go ahead and click on that. And you will notice that that is this subcontract document that Rose sent me. Now it even has the information, you know, Rose created at this time, at this hour, and this is when she sent it to me. If there was any notes that she added, I would be able to view those as well. At this point, you can see the screen is slightly different from the AP approval screen because I can either approve it, I can route it around, I can reply to it, or if I have the option to, I could delete it as well if I had the security rights to do so. Okay. So if everything looks good to me, then I can come in here and I can then just approve this document. Okay. So now this document will go back to Rose, and then Rose can continue the process of sending it to the subcontractor, maybe via DocuSign for them to sign, or however you want to handle that workflow. Okay. Okay. So then last thing I do want to show you is you have the ability to search your various types of documents. So these are all the different types of documents that I have activated within the software. You can potentially even create your own custom documents as well. So if there's something else you want to put in here and there's not already a document created for you, you can create your own document and attach it to that too. So in this example, I'm just going to say I want to see all the documents, and I want to see all the documents related to a specific job. So in this example, I'm going to put the job number here. And sorry, the screen's a little too big. And I'm going to click search. Oh, do I not have anything related to this job? Strange. Come on. Oh, it would be good if I put it in the right field. Okay, so this was my search criteria. Now I could use multiple of these different items to search for this document. I just chose the job number, but you could do ands and ors to, you know, narrow down what you see. So what this is doing is this is showing me all the documents that are inside Paperless that are related to job number 201. Okay, so I've got some purchase orders, I've got some subcontracts, I've got some AP invoices, and I can view all these documents. So when I hover over, you'll notice that it kind of gives a preview of that document. So if I don't want to have to actually double click and open that document to view it, I can just hover over it and it'll show me that preview of that document. Okay. Also from here, I can route this around as well internally. So if there was a question about something, I can say, oh, well, let me route this around to Paul because he had a question about this. I can also email these documents internally and externally. I could print them out, and I could also save them to a file. So what some companies do is when a job is getting ready for closeout, what they'll do is they'll pull up that job and they will save to a DVD disc all the documents related to that job, right? And they'll stick it into the banker's file for that closed job. And now they've got, you know, all these documents also saved. Or sometimes maybe your customer wants a copy of all the invoices related to their project. Well, now I can come in here, I can get all those documents, I can save them, I can burn them to a DVD file and send them to my customer, however I want to handle that. Okay. Okay. All right. So that is kind of an overview of Sage Paperless.